more stories today before we round out today, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully this episode will be out later on today. And an immortal headline. So we're going straight from one mainstream media fiasco to another, but this time involving the quote-unquote Home Office. There was an immortal headline that was published in the Telegraph yesterday afternoon at 4:15 p.m. Everyone will remember where they were at 4:15 p.m. yesterday afternoon, because the Telegraph published this headline: "The rights of asylum seekers trump people of Epping, advises or argues Home Office." That is a headline that was published in the UK Telegraph outlet. So after a High Court injunction, the Home Office lawyers have now argued basically that the rights of asylum seekers should trump the locals of Epping, and that basically the citizens of Epping, the locals of Epping, should be made second-class citizens in their own towns. That's basically what they've argued. Asylum seekers' rights are more important than the concerns of the people of Epping, Home Office has declared. Home Office. Important to remember. Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen. Important to remember. I'll see if it's in my bookmarks and I'll bring it up now. Important to remember what the Home Office, quote-unquote Home Office looks like. Because I do believe I bookmarked I thought I bookmarked a photo of them. Oh well, let's see if I can find it now. Because the Home Office, I made the claim over and over that the Home Office is not even a Home Office, it's a Foreign Office. And the Home Office is a Foreign Office because it's quite clear that it is staffed predominantly by Muslims, foreigners, and Muslim foreigners. Just bear in mind, when those who say that these are the people whom are saying that the rights of asylum seekers matter more than the locals in their own communities. These are the people that are saying that. Do you notice something here, ladies and gentlemen? Or rather, do you notice a distinct absence of something? Yes, you'd be right in saying you'll notice a distinct absence of British people, is what you'll notice. You notice a distinct absence of British people. And then it's foreigners saying that foreigners have more rights in our communities than our local people, our, fellow Britons do. And that should surprise you none. It should surprise you none with how naturally tribal and sectarian the human race is. Our politicians have spent generations trying to convince us that isn't true for their own political gain. But very, very sadly it is. And people are realizing that more and more and more now. On Friday, so that's today actually, a judge will rule whether Epping Forest District Council can close a hotel housing illegal migrants or the Home Office can continue to use it to house asylum seekers. On Thursday, Home Office lawyers told the Court of Appeal that Yvette Cooper has a duty as Home Secretary to prevent asylum seekers from being made destitute under the European Convention of Human Rights, and they should continue to live at the Bell Hotel, despite the fact that, a 14-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by one of the people within this hotel. They flipped off the bunch of locals, they spat at them, they showed their arse to them. Not the kind of people that we want in our communities under any circumstance whatsoever. Doesn't matter whether they're fleeing asylum or whatever, but we know the fact that they're not actually fleeing asylum. In many instances, we know that. One of the people that recently claimed asylum, and came here was from Tanzania. I saw a newspaper article or saw a ex-post, I believe it was. It came from Tanzania. And Tanzania is a place you can book to go on a holiday, ladies and gentlemen. So dare say, if it was at war, well, a lot of these places actually are not at war and haven't been at war for a long time. But obviously the asylum system is just being used as a great replacement system. One of the systems within this great replacement narrative, right? Within this great replacement system. They claim this responsibility trumped the council's powers to close the hotel, which has been at the centre of protest in recent weeks after an asylum seeker living there was accused of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. He's since been arrested as well, by the way. It was I believe it was a 36-year-old, it was a 36-year-old migrant it was. I do have it somewhere. Here we go. It says here, Hadush Gerber Slazi Kebatu is accused of attempting to kiss a 14-year-old girl, and he has been arrested. I believe he has been arrested. And I dare say this will be going bad. I dare say this will be going bad for the people of Epping. And I dreaded to think what we're going to be seeing happen afterwards, because one of the judges, quote unquote, presiding over this, I believe it is a Lord Justice Bean, said a ruling on the appeal would be made on Friday at 12 p.m. because of the great urgency of this matter. And news outlets such as GB News and other articles and outlets are now detailing his prior involvement with the Fabian Society, which, by the way, the logo for the Fabian Society is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So that should tell you all you need to know about where this is going to go if the establishment gets their way. But you want to know about the kinds of people, as I said. You have the Ethiopian, I believe it was an Ethiopian migrant that we just mentioned, trying to kiss a 14-year-old girl, right? We have all of this happen all up and down the country. It is a true epidemic. And so many, and this is particularly if you're a kind of person or you know somebody, this whole refugees welcome and whatever else, right? And, you know, we love immigration and all of this kind of stuff without caring about who's coming in and what ideologies they bring and how they see you, right? I'm always reminded of the scene. It just come to my mind now. I'm always reminded of the scene from the children's film Madagascar. Just come out when I was a kid, and the scene where they're trapped on this island for so long, and because they start getting so hungry, Alex just starts hallucinating that all the other animals are like literal pieces of meat, and chases Marty, who I believe is voiced by what's his name? I can't remember that. No, is it it's not Chris Rock. Who voices? Leave in the comments who voices the zebra in Madagascar and who voices the lion. Right? Leave it in the comments because I've bloody forgotten. But the fact that he just sees everything as meat, right? You know, he just sees this massive crowd of meat that he's giving this speech to, and he's about to go in and delve into all the meat and stuff like that. Just start seeing all the other animals as these bits of meat, right? And say what you want. Sad thing is that is how a lot of people coming from other areas of the world see, in particular, women. See, particularly young women. And sadly, it does seem that somebody found this out the hard way, because this is not necessarily an asylum seeker, but a homeless migrant after being sheltered by a mother of three when he was then asked to leave, beat said mother of three to death. So you have a lovely culture enricher here by the name of Apapale Adawam, or Adaum, however you say it, was asked to leave after a while after being sheltered in Victoria Adams's home. And when she asked him to leave, beat her to death with a mallet. So I couldn't find the GB News article, but I did find a BBC article. Homeless man guilty of murdering woman in her flat, from the BBC. A homeless man accused of battering a West London woman to death with a mallet days after she took him in has pleaded guilty to her murder. Victoria Adams, 37, was found dead at her Hammersmith flat on 9th of February after police were called to a report of a man attempting to break into a property in Coulter Road. Adum, 39, who was arrested at the scene, met her on 6th of February when he was living in a homeless shelter. Miss Adams was found face down in a bedroom with a bin bag over her head, which was covered by a pillow. She had suffered at least 10 injuries to the back and side of her head from being struck with a blunt object, said to be a mallet, found with her blood and DNA on it. She invited Adum to stay with her, but later wrote a note to ask him to leave. And that's it. And then she was murdered for her trouble. So again, you have to always be wary. You have to always be wary of these things now, ladies and gentlemen, very, very sadly. Very, very sadly. This is one of many. It's one of many. You should be thinking about this next time. Now the government is trying to force your doors open to these people. And bear in mind, they're not doing it because you're going to be any better off because of it. They're doing it because they want to force you to house their new voter bloc. I know I'm preaching to the converted a little bit by here, but everybody needs to, this message needs to keep being said. This message needs to keep being said, right? And you need to share it with your friends, especially your liberal ones, if anything, just so I can hear about their meltdowns and everything else. But, this could be your, I don't know, sister, niece, whatever. This could be your relative or friend. And the government should not be forcing people into our communities that have no business being here. This is our home. This is our home. It's the internationalists and the socialists. They want to make your home a home for everybody, no matter what heinous things that they will do, no matter who they are, right? No matter what their religious ideology or anything like that is, which does matter. And they'll bend over backwards for them. They'll bend over backwards for them. We spoke last time, I believe it was, about, or the time before that, about the Senedd giving quote-unquote refugees, quote-unquote asylum seekers, free access to public buildings, CADU buildings, right, and stuff like that. Well, asylum seekers were handed almost 1 million NHS free passes, right? This was published on 1st of August this year. New data shows asylum seekers, quote-unquote, were awarded 920,199 of the 1.56 million HC2 certificates issued in the last 5 years. Almost 1 million NHS free passes have been given out to asylum seekers in the last 5 years. HC2 certificates give low-income residents the right to freebies not afforded to most of the public, including free prescriptions, dental care, eye tests, wigs, and discounts for glasses, contact lenses, travelling to and from appointments. So, ladies and gentlemen, we as in the British people, Welsh people, English people, whatever, you pay your taxes. You're paying exorbitant amount of taxes into the system, in theory, so you'll have something to live on at the end of your life, right? Paying into your pension or whatever, so you're going to get a state pension at the end of it. You're going to get, all of this stuff from the state back at the end of your life, right? Which now in many instances, funnily enough, how a lot of those are disappearing, right? Like your fuel winter allowances and all the rest of it. Meanwhile, they'll give people who are coming here illegally, dropping their documentation in the channel. Many instances now we have terrorist networks exploiting our open borders, right? Active Patriot, one of the things he was documenting is that we now have literal ISIS, literal Islamic State within our borders, right? We know how many people are on the watch list and stuff like that. God knows how many are within our borders. But why are these people who you think that their first priorities would be food, water, shelter? Yeah, we're giving them wigs. Why? Why? I don't understand it. It makes literally no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. I literally have no words for it. Your local authorities, right, your government, with these HC2 certificates, because then it says, okay, we'll leech off the taxpayer to give them hotel accommodation, to give them 3 meals a day, buffet meals and all the rest of it, which most of them are the ungrateful fucks. They don't eat it anyway, right? Going to one of the migrant hotel auditors, which worked within the hotels, who now I believe has also been put under arrest and under draconian conditions. Right, tells you all you need to know about the British state, right? How much they love free speech. Over half, 60%, 6 out of 10 nearly, giving them then prescriptions, wigs, discounts for glasses. Yet we are the ones that pay into the system. We are the ones that keep the system going, but we get no rewards from it. If anything, then we end up being forced to pay more. We end up being forced to pay more as a people. Tell me how that makes any kind of sense. And then you wonder why people are fleeing, wonder why people are going to Dubai and going to other countries, right? Where the government is not going to take as much of their fucking money and use it on things like this, which the vast majority of people don't support anyway. This is what happens when you have a government that is accountable to no one. So what happens when you have a state. It's very similar. It's not quite at the extreme end of it is that it is, but it's the same system. That's why we call North Korea the Hermit Kingdom and stuff like that. It's the same system. It's all the same system. It's all the same system of rules for thee and not for me, which is why Angela Rayner, despite touting about the evils of the rich and everything like that, can now buy her third home at 800,000. And then evade, obviously, get around, stamp duty tax to about the tune of about £40,000, I believe. You're virtuous, morally upright politicians, everybody. But not to mention, when we're talking about people being flooded into our communities who we know nothing about, we don't know who they are, it doesn't help them when the police will fail, quote unquote, to record crimes. Not only will they outright not record crimes because many of them are just disgusting and evil, then they'll also fail to record crimes because they're simply inept. And that is DEI in a nutshell, isn't it? Putting A, the least qualified, and B, probably the person from a moral standpoint you want least in a position as well, because they're getting there from a position of victimhood, and they'd be very resentful because of it. Police forces failed to record, this is from the Telegraph again, 285,000 crimes last year. Assault, stalking, and coercive control are among violent offences not adequately documented. So from Martin Evans at the Telegraph, police are failing to record more than 250,000 crimes each year, including violent attacks and incidents of antisocial behaviour. Inspectors from the police watchdog estimated more than 5% of all offences were missing from official data. The audit for crime data found that violent offences such as assault, stalking, and coercive control were still not being recorded adequately. I wonder why. Could there be a political incentive for that, I wonder? Meanwhile, only around half of cases of antisocial behaviour were being logged properly, with the report saying this level of crime recording is unacceptably low, and it means victims remain at risk of harm. Just imagine if you only had 50% on a test, what your parents would say. Right, presumably they're, relatively good, virtuous parents and they care about your education. If you only came home with 50% on a test, what do you think your fucking parents would say? And then, that is unacceptable when you then extrapolate it to antisocial behaviour and other kinds of crime, right, from the people whom we charge with protect and serve. So it says victims left without help. The report said if forces don't record crimes correctly, they may not allocate investigative resources efficiently. We already know that because they're allocating all of their investigative resources to X posts and super crack fucking forces online. That's what they're bloody putting all of their resources to, because controlling information and controlling people's thoughts and words is more important than controlling whether fucking Abdul and Ahmed and Mohammed and Iqbal and whoever else is going around in a gang in Luton or going around a gang in Rotherham or Rochdale or Bradford or Swansea or Monmouthshire, whatever it may be, going around raping children. They don't care about that because it's not politically advantageous to pursue that, because why would they pursue people for crimes when they want them to vote for them? Why would they do that? Most importantly, victims of these crimes who are often particularly vulnerable may be left without the help they desperately need, and many is this because the police have outright turned on them. You only need to look at how many reports of the police were calling the victims of the grooming gangs white slags and all the rest of it, right? And child prostitutes, right? Without even batting an eye at the fact that there's many things wrong with even that term existing, because how can a child be a prostitute, right? That shows you the level of the degeneracy that we tolerate in our society, the fact that we were using terms like that, the fact that you use terms like that and you wouldn't even bat an eye being like, hang on, wait, what? Child prostitute? No, that's not a thing. That's a child rape victim. But yeah, that's what happens when you lose track and you lose grip on the moral foundation of your society. So you're losing grip on the moral foundation of society and stuff like that. If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.